Lecture 3. Chapter 8. Then Bildad the Shuhite replied, "How long will you say such things? Your words are a blustering wind. Does God pervert justice? Does the Almighty pervert what is right? Maybe your children had sinned against him, so he cast them away for their transgression. If you worship God and supplicate to the Almighty, if you are pure and upright, surely then he will come to your aid and restore your rightful habitation. And though your beginning was small, your latter days will be very great. Ask your former generations and find out what their fathers have learned. For we are too young and know nothing, and our days on earth are but a shadow. Will they not teach you and tell you and utter words out of their understanding? Such are the paths of all who forget God. The hope of the godless shall perish. What he trusts in is fragile. What he relies on is a spider's web. God will not cast away a blameless man, neither will he help the evildoers. He will yet fill the blameless mouth with laughter and their lips with shouts of joy. Those who hate you will be clothed with shame, and the tent of the wicked will be no more. Bildad, like the first friend Eliphaz, also shared the general principles to Job. He simply told Job to fear and believe in God, emphasizing that God is just, who punishes the wicked and rewards the blameless. However, they didn't understand Job's suffering and confusion. Job didn't lack faith or reverence for God. Rather, he didn't know where he sinned. Driven by intense physical pain and a fragile heart, Job was even seeking death. Therefore, the comfort provided by these two friends didn't address the point, and instead left Job feeling even more confused and disheartened. Chapter 9. Then Job answered and said, "Indeed, I know that this is true, but how can a man be considered righteous before God?" Job responded to his friend, "I know the principles you are speaking of. They are correct. But how can a person truly become righteous before God and please him? If one wished to talk with him, one could not answer him once in 1,000 times. He is wise in heart and mighty in strength. Who has hardened himself against him and succeeded? All things in the world are created by God. He performs wonders that cannot be fathomed, miracles that cannot be counted. If he snatches away, who can stop him? When God is angry, the arrogant accomplice of mankind, Rahab, will also cower at his fate. In the Bible, Rahab is the representation of demonic and evil forces. How can I answer any of God's questions? How can I find words to argue with him? In this passage, Job expressed an awe for the great power and omniscience of God. Though I were righteous, I could not answer him. I could only make supplication to my judge. If I called him, he could answer me. He crushes me with a storm and multiplies my wounds for no reason. He will not let me get my breath, but fills me with bitterness. But shall I then not believe in God? Shall I doubt that God has heard my prayer? God is almighty. When he judges me, can I have an opportunity to seek guidance? I wanted to defend myself in my heart, considering myself righteous, but my mouth would condemn me. I thought I was blameless, but he would prove me sinful. Job knew that he shouldn't argue, as he was not blameless. He only hoped for an opportunity to personally ask God. He believed that God had heard his prayers. Even if I consider myself blameless, I am not sure about how my soul truly is. I might despise my own life. Job thought that he didn't have the true wisdom to distinguish between good and evil. Only God has that wisdom. Therefore I say, God has erased the boundary between good and evil in the hearts of mankind. If a disaster suddenly strikes, he will mock the trial of the innocent mankind. The earth falls into the hands of the wicked, for he blindfolds its judges. If it is not he, then who is it? I am dying. I just want to forget my sorrow, leave off my heaviness, and console myself. I am afraid of all my suffering, but I know you will not hold me innocent. Since I shall be condemned, why should I struggle in vain? Job was conveying that, although he feared God, turned away from evil, and constantly stayed vigilant to prevent sin, he still faced such retribution. He couldn't accept it. Even if I wash myself with snow and cleanse my hands with lye, you would plunge me into a pit. In your eyes, I am more filthy than these dirty clothes. For God is not immortal as I am. I cannot supplicate to him face to face, nor can I witness his judgment. There is no mediator between us. I cannot express my anguish and confusion. Let him take his rod away from me, so I shall not live in constant fear. Then I would seek guidance from him without fear. Yet, as far as my current situation is concerned, I cannot. Most of the Chinese versions are not translated accurately, as the translators thought that Job was defending himself and even complaining about God and considering God unjust. However, upon careful examination of various English versions, we found that this is not the case. Job always feared God and believed in God. Yet he was experiencing unbearable physical suffering and longed to get rid of it. He knew that only God could help him. He simply wished to personally meet God and ask him to point out his problem and sin, as well as how to be free from punishment. Chapter 10. My heart is filled with despair. I want to blame myself. I want to express the bitterness of my soul. I want to say to God, do not condemn me, but tell me why you treat me this way. You created mankind. You punish and watch them, but the earth is filled with the schemes of the wicked. Is this your plan and intention? You know that I am not wicked. You have granted me life and steadfast love, and your care has preserved my spirit. Yet these things you hid in your heart. I know that this was your purpose. If I sin, you watch me and do not acquit me of my iniquity. If I am wicked, woe to me. Even if I am righteous, I cannot lift up my head, for I am filled with shame. So, Lord, please look at my affliction. You continuously bring disaster upon me and increase your punishment for me. Impermanence and war strike me. Why then did you bring me out of the womb? Are not my days few? Then cease and leave me alone, that my suffering can be alleviated for a moment before I go to the land of darkness and deep shadow. The shadow of death is approaching me. This chapter also expresses Job's yearning for God's teachings, his awe of God's power, his faith in God's justice, his helplessness in the face of suffering, and his fear of death and impermanence.